Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this show runs through the ages. Sinners and saints, goblins and haints, but beware as they say we're contagious. Sick with the truth, we uncover the lies. We beat on the drums as they march side by side. Wake up, my dear friends, and smell that fresh roast. Last night shall no longer exist. You're here by yourself, but you're never alone, as we spin stories you'll hear in the mist. Reptilians and greys, we folk who stay hidden. Mysterious booms, archaeology forbidden. Stay away from the village, keep off of the moors. There's a lady in white and bloodstains on the floor. So sit back and relax, take the load off your feet, as we're here to amaze, entertain, and complete. You see, my name is John, and Stacey's here too, and my, do we have something in store for you. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow, with your host, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we have been social distancing our butts off.
We have.
So far that we didn't get close enough to the microphones to record a show.
But the microphone's got masks. We're all good now.
Yes, but they got the special John and Stacey mask available at the John and Stacey store that looks like you're wearing a mask, but it's got lips on it. And you just tell people these are 3D lips. They're actually your lips. Little holes, just so you can breathe. I have a hard time breathing in the mask.
I do. Not all the time, but when I'm grocery shopping, oh my, it's like I have no cardio at all, apparently, because I get very winded trying to.
I don't know. I think you're excused because of the mask.
Grocery shop in the mask.
I've got the best cardio in the world, and I am tapping out because it's 90 degrees out there.
Right.
Oh my God. As soon as I get out of the car, I'm dying. Because
we insist on wearing the super duper.
No, I wear the little cloth one. I was wearing the beautiful one that Jeffrey got us. And I like saying Jeffrey. So Mr. Jeff Carter helped us out and hooked us up and all this stuff. So I like wearing that when you're in like nice situations.
Right.
And but our son's girlfriend had to prove that she's part of the family and tell me how much it looked like a vagina. So I have a hard time wearing it now.
I didn't know she said that.
Without seeing a vagina on my face in a bad way.
That's funny.
Projecting from my face.
That's even better than the doctor telling you it looked like the cup of a bra.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had a lot of people tell me that my safety brings them humor and delight. Speaking of humor and delight, some of the things you missed while you were away. John had his birthday. And yes. I had the best present ever. I can't tell you what it is because the kids get mad at each other. But let's just say, for instance, it was a first edition Sherlock Holmes book from 1891 that Raja, the best person on the planet, got me because I love her so much. And my love is reciprocated in presents. This is how you know when someone really loves you.
She did find a pretty awesome present.
And I found out how much Cody loved me, because he got me some amazing things.
He did.
He doesn't think so. He's like, he said F. He's like, he got me a Sandman graphic novel, which was amazing. It was just one of the things he got me.
Yes.
But I was like, man, I love this graphic novel. I've been wanting to get it. He's like, F that graphic novel after Rasha got the other thing.
Hey, her present kind of buried mine too. I mean, she got you the first 6 issues of Strand Magazine in a bound book from 1891 with all the first appearances of Sherlock Holmes stories. I mean, that's a pretty awesome present.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yes.
And Father's Day present was just as amazing. I'm wearing it now. So she got me like the actual, because mine had broke.
Right.
So I've got my Viking bracelet on and
your armband.
Yeah, my armband for my tribe that I'll get to give to my most deserving kid one day. I want them to really worry about that. Like, it's something where I want them to. It should be like a fight to the death kind of thing. I'm glad this one was of value. And we have enough to have fight for the death. Like, there's enough of them there.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. God knows the ones we know of, We might have them show up from over the mountains and stuff and be like, Father, I've been training this whole entire time because I heard the podcast. Mother told me you were my father.
What country does this child come from?
Hopefully, Austria.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Her name was, well, it doesn't matter what her name was, but she was Austrian. And man, it was just a moment of weakness.
Right.
So, anyway, that was like in that 2 minutes I was an adult before I met you. It's like that 1 week. I had to write our profile again because every time we've got stuff coming up, you have to redo your bio and all this stuff and update it. Well, you don't have to. You could be like some of the people we've had interview before where they send us the same bio like year after year after year. It gets me. It's one of the things that really irks me is I'm not interviewing you because you're really that cool. I'm interviewing you because you happen to fall in this little niche of people that I have to interview.
Right.
It's not because you're LeBron James. All right. LeBron James could probably have somebody write his for him or keep it the same. It's fine. I'm LeBron James.
Right.
Okay.
Do you even need a bio?
Not really. No, not really. No. But when you're Mr. Sister from the town of Blister and you do paranormal anything.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Like I was a guest star on Paranormal Happenings in 2001, and then I successfully found my way to a conference in 2006, and made it out of Mom's basement in 2009. So the type.
Right.
And then they send me the bio, back the first time we interviewed him in 2010. And it's just like, oh, okay, this is cool. Let me read it here. Mr. Sister was an avid watcher of this, or he was, it goes through all this crap.
Right.
And then you interview him again in like 2012, and it's the same damn thing. Even though they've done other stuff, they've got new books they haven't told you about. And it keeps going like that. Like, I don't like to have to figure out what your book is. So if I ever interview you, all right, the fact that I have to look up and figure out what you're selling means you can go to hell on a platter, okay? You're not going to get interviewed again.
I actually think the proper form of transportation is a hand basket.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're so right, Stacey.
Yes.
A hand basket.
Yes.
Can you tell that we're tired of being pinned up? It's like, these guys were nice last time I heard them. What's going on?
Take a few weeks off and then, Jesus.
They're really mad. It's like, why did they really stop interviewing people? Well, there you go. Ding, ding, ding. Because we hate you all.
That's not true.
We hate most of you. But speaking of fun and people and how much we love them,
yes.
Scarefest this year, we were just announced.
Yes.
So, we were announced for Scarefest. Can't wait to talk to all of you. Can't wait to meet all of you virtually.
Yes, we were announced for the CyberCon.
In our home.
Yep.
Yeah. And well, when they first got a hold of us and said, do you want to be part of CyberCon? I got the lotion and the freaking Pornhub, and I was like, hell yeah.
I was wondering why you asked for all those tissues. I wasn't sure what you were doing.
Tissue smissues. I like to leave presents.
Let's just keep going.
I plan on it. But you're like, I must have sneezed last night. It's like, how nice has Stacey been to me?
Anyway.
I don't know, there was something in my shoe. So yeah. Anyway, we are going to be on there. And we've got our time and all this stuff. I'll put it up for you on the social media gimmick. And you can get on there and look at it. But we're going to be doing a really, really cool talk this year. I mean, just a phenomenal talk.
Yes.
Because it's also, such a secret. It's such a secret. Because Stacey and I are working on our second book. And I'm not telling you what the book's about. But it may or may not be about exactly what we're doing the conference lecture on. So we've been doing a whole lot of research. We've been having a lot of fun with it. And we actually, just really went deep into this subject and fell in love with it. And we're really looking forward to this. Do you want to give them the title?
Sure. It's Appalachian Giants, Moon-Eyed People, and Other Forbidden History.
Absolutely.
Yes. The only problem with the whole thing is we're only going to have to fit it all into 45 minutes, and you know how we like to talk.
So that's going to be a problem.
So bullet points. We're going to have bullet points.
Well, we also got a way around that. So we were thinking about doing that lecture, and then maybe doing one of our live episodes for the patrons directly following that episode. Okay, so we're doing the con, and when the con is concluded, because we have to man our booth, so to speak, there's a virtual booth where you can come ask us questions.
Yes, so come visit us.
Yeah, and the more information we get on this, we'll give it to you, because there's going to be a lot of fun to be had with this. You really want to be part of Scarefest, because it's really cool, honestly. The virtual thing, we're still going to be the celebrities and all this stuff, except it's going to be from the comfort of your own home. I mean, it can't get any better than that. And, that's really cool to me anyway. You're not going to have to worry about capacity filling up on something, right?
Right.
So you get to go in and have fun, ask your questions.
That's right.
And you can ask us questions all day.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. What we're wanting to do is after that day is over, say 6 o'clock, go in and with the rest of the story and just have this episode called The Rest of the Story. But that's for our new show. And that's something that our $25 and higher patrons are getting, and they're going to get 2 this month, because we promised one in June and it didn't get to happen. But we're going to go through all the titles, which we did on a special video, and we shared that all over social media.
Yes.
So hopefully you got to see it. If you didn't, that's okay, because we're going to go over it again. But Stacey.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them what the name of our nifty new show is?
Oh, the live show?
The live show. That video show?
Yes. It's called John and Stacey versus the Unknown.
Yes.
Which is cool. I like that title.
It really is cool. We need to make a cool intro.
Oh, okay.
Like a whap bam slam kind of comic book intro.
Right.
That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
It would be cool.
So we're going to be... you're going to get to play along with this, right? So we're going to be showing you like as a PowerPoint type thing. And everybody's got YouTube videos they love where somebody's showing them, Egyptian pyramids. And you get to see it as they go. Or they're showing you what's happening on their Google machine as they're looking up something. Or, you know what I'm talking about. So that's basically the premise here. We're going to do this. But except instead of news, we're actually going to have these incredible, well-prepared, imagine that, episodes of deep dives. So we're going to be going 2 hours of deep dive on a subject, and you get to be interactive with us. And so if you have a question, just pop it up and we will address it then. We can have discussion from that,
right?
Whatever we need to do. Now hopefully the show develops and changes, because to me it's a moving, living, breathing thing. So that'll be based on, it's for you. So it's going to be based on your suggestions. It's going to be based on your feedback. And we really want to make it the best user-friendly experience we can for our patrons who help us out tremendously. And we're trying to give everybody who gets on the Patreon as much as we possibly can for the levels and everything, because we want to give you a real experience. We want to give you something that makes you truly feel that you got what you paid for, and that you're getting a special, instead of just funding us or helping us do what we're doing. I really want to make sure you're getting something cool. And so that's exciting to me. And, so I appreciate everybody's patience on getting this launched, and we have it all figured out now, and it's all going good. We have a lot of things planned, and, and we're rolling. So I'm just really excited about it. And without further ado, I now give you the 5 episodes of John and Stacey versus the Unknown. Coming up first, I'm really excited about this one. Secrets of the Past. John and Stacey's brand new foray into live and uncensored patron-only broadcasting kicks off with a dive into their favorite cover-ups and rewritten history as they look into our past to what just doesn't seem to fit. From Göbekli Tepe to giants walking the earth. Join us for an hour you'll never forget, which is actually 2 hours. I'll have to change that. The next one is called Conspiracy Nut. Could have been Conspiracy Nuts and just been about the Kennedys.
There you go.
I don't know why I've laughed like Butthead right there. Fire. John and Stacey will pull and discuss the top conspiracies facing the world currently in a subject reserved for Patreon due to the highly controversial area. John and Stacey will give the facts as they know them and offer their opinions and discussion on each. We don't usually go into the current stuff. So this has to be on Patreon only because of, well, the fact that we're going current events on it. The Grassy Knoll is the next episode. Episode 3. John and Stacey jump headfirst into some of the world's top classic and well-known conspiracies. They give you the history of it and their takes on each one. Unlike the Paranormal Sideshow, this is private and for patrons only, so you'll get 100% no-holds-barred view from your favorite paranormal couple. That's us, by the way. Episode 4, Alien Autopsy, ? In the 90s, Fox aired a highly controversial mockumentary on alien autopsy from recently discovered film. I'm doing quotes. Was it all for show, or was there some fire burning from that smoke? John and Stacey discussed this event in television history, as well as the most controversial and exciting moments from UFO television over the years. What are they trying to tell us? This is an area we would never tackle on the main show. Hear John and Stacey's real thoughts on all of it. And then episode 5 is going to be originally a You Pick the episode, okay? And that's what I advertised because of what we've gone through, and we're going to have some of these recurring. So we'll have like the current event as far as conspiracy theories. That'll be recurring. The best classic conspiracy theories, recurring based on what you want to hear. And nothing is taboo on this. So if you want us to talk about a subject and we get enough people wanting to talk about it, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to shy away from anything. This is yours. This is Patreon, okay? So nobody else has anything to say about this. We're going to do what you want to do. And we're pretty excited about that because some of the things have been self-imposed by us. You know, we've got restraints. Not many, but we do have restraints, and we'll have those off on there. So pretty excited about all that. But the actual 5th episode is going to be what we're working on for our Scarefest. And it's also may or may not be what we're working for in another area that we write, but it'll be the Appalachian Giants, Moon-Eyed People, and other forbidden history. And what I want to do is sort of just read you from what we're doing with Scarefest. And I thought maybe that would be, get you excited for Scarefest, but also get you excited for this episode. Now you got to remember, monthly episodes, except you get 2 the first month. So, you're looking 4 months away, 5 months away on this one. The Appalachian area is steeped in a rich history of folklore and ancient mountain mysteries. Some of the strongest and most intriguing of these mysteries is that of the race of giants who ruled the Appalachian area until being driven out by Native Americans. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, there was a common knowledge amongst the population of amazing 7, 8, and even 9-foot tall skeletons being found in Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, and Ohio. A great conspiracy has recently resurfaced with the question of where are the bones that were recovered? And what is so alarming about these discoveries to make the powers that be concerned for the general population finding out the truth? Aside from the astonishing tales of giants, there is also Cherokee legends of moon-eyed people and even Tennessee pygmies scattered throughout our forbidden history. Paranormal researchers, authors, that's us, and all kinds of stuff. It just tells us about us, and we're going to be talking about Appalachian Giant, moon-eyed people, and other forbidden history. So really excited about that.
Yes.
That's gonna be some good stuff. And I mean, there's so much we've stumbled onto in researching this that is kind of alarming. I have my quick thought on why they are hiding the giant bones. Do you have a thought?
I mean, probably not a quick thought, but
Well, what's your thought?
Well, it's just at the time that a lot of these skeletons were being found and dug up and the newspapers were covering it, was still a time where they weren't happy about their narrative being changed at all. I mean, it's the same thing we talk about with scientists. They have their story of what they say happened, and anything that kind of goes outside that box sort of gets hushed up.
Right.
Now, the end game to that, I'm not sure what that would be, why they wouldn't just tell us what the real history was, but I'm sure that they had something in their heads, a reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got an idea too, and especially with the time period. These things were starting to be dug up in droves, just like dinosaur bones.
Right.
Around the late 1800s. Okay. It was the late 1800s, early 1900s. Now, in 1859, Charles Darwin's book, and of course, on the origin of species.
Right.
It's where his theory of evolution came.
Right.
So it was instantly accepted. Okay. Well, not from church-going people, but
right.
from the scientific community,
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty much instantly universally accepted that evolution, we came from a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's all well and good, except I don't know. It's one of those things I don't like to get into that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because it's not for the reasons people might think, but I think there's more to it
Right.
than that. And of course, you might look at things like, why are there still monkeys?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we did come from that, and people have their reasons why, and I get it. That's wonderful, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the reason, because look, if you had a race of giants in antiquity,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously we didn't come from apes,
No, exactly.
because they're freaking giants
Mm-hmm.
then.
Right.
So it blows it all out of the water.
Yes. Like I said, doesn't fit in their box.
Right. And when you're trying to get this over and accepted,
Mm-hmm.
you are not, I mean, you just put this big thing out, changed all the textbooks,
Right.
and now you could either give the bones to the Smithsonian. And what's really bad about this, it's all bad, but when the Smithsonian picked up all these bones, which they always did,
Right.
there's reports that they took thousands of them and dumped them off a barge and stuff, like in the ocean.
Crazy.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to think that they're still there, that they have them.
They have them somewhere.
Yeah.
Some kind of vault or something.
And they're somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They just wouldn't do that.
Well, I would think they'd risk being found again.
Yeah.
So
Maybe not.
Maybe.
But yeah. I don't know, man. It's a lot. And we're going to go into all that.
Mm-hmm.
John and Stacey versus the unknown is one way to go into that. The other way will be Scarefest. So this year, as we were talking, Scarefest presents CyberCon, the virtual convention, and it's August 29th.
Mm-hmm.
So all you got to do is go to thescarefest.com, and that's thescarefest.com. You'll get all the information you need there.
Mm-hmm.
You can also look up Scarefest on Facebook and all the little social medials and find out what you need.
Yes.
They put a lot of information. They work really hard behind the scenes to get as much as they can constantly. So I would encourage you to go to all your Facebook pages and like those and join the groups and stuff.
And as we find out more about, times and schedule and stuff, we'll definitely spread that information.
So normally I do a list.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to do a list on this episode.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. There has been some of the most astounding news
Mm-hmm.
from the history of us doing this show. As far as news coming out, there's been some of the best news over the past few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
over the past month even, that have just blown us away. And we've wanted to come and break through the waves and tell you guys all about the stuff, and several times. But really excited to get as much of that as we can to you on this episode. The one thing I will say before we delve into some awesome news is the zoo trip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we did a couple of zoo trips, and
did.
when we go, I love spending time with the apes, the monkeys,
Gorillas, the chimps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I had such an experience in North Carolina.
I know. Now, first of all, the North Carolina Zoo is just really nice. For what it costs to get in and for the size of it, the way they do it is just wonderful. They're not, the animals aren't in these little circular enclosures where you can see all sides of it. They've got these big open spaces where they can roam, and they've got all kinds of amazing places to be. So it is quite a walk when you go there. Expect a hike to see all the animals, but it was really fun, and I really enjoyed going to that zoo.
Oh yeah, it was crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it except for the walk because of how humid it was.
So hot.
My God, it was humid. It was kill you humid.
Yes, but while we were there, we had a couple of really cool experiences. First, when we were watching the gorillas. The gorillas were very playful, and we were all standing there, and this is so funny. We were all standing there, and Kyler was right up on the glass, and he'd been wanting to go to the zoo forever. The reason we did the zoo trips is he's been asking to go to the zoo for months. He's never been he went when he was a little tiny baby, but he's never been where he could see the animals. So he's standing right up on the glass, and a gorilla walked by and then just jumped up and started smacking on the glass really hard, and it made him jump, and he just thought that was the best thing. He laughed so hard, and they were very playful, so it was really fun. So then we went down and we saw the chimpanzees, and as we were standing there, John had this amazing experience. He was standing really close to the glass, and this one older chimpanzee comes over and sits down, and he just looks right at John, just looks at him. And so John got right down, where they were sort of face to face with just the glass in between. And John was taking pictures. He took a selfie, and the chimps just stood there and, let him take the selfie. And then when John turned back around, the chimp pointed to John, and then he pointed to his head and started rubbing his finger back and forth and then pointing back to John. In other words, he was asking him why he didn't have any hair. And so John was like, yeah, I don't have any hair. And then John pointed to his chin. He's like, I have hair here. And the chimp kind of rolled his eyes at him a little bit. It was like, yeah. But he kept rubbing his head like to show that he didn't understand why he didn't have hair.
Yeah, it was, there was probably more to it that I won't get into, but, it was very moving experience.
It was.
I will talk about it more in depth some point. It was just very cool. I love primates. I would love to work professionally with them and stay in the jungle all the time and live with gorillas. It's weird, I know, but I really, I guess that's one of my causes, like if I ever become a filthy rich, trillionaire, I will definitely make sure that more gorillas are rescued and we stop losing chimpanzees by an alarming rate that we've lost them, where we went from millions to 150,000. It's in 100 years.
Yes.
It's just sad.
Very sad.
It's horrible, man. It's just horrible, just like elephants and, all these things that need to be stopped.
Yes, I agree.
It just needs to be stopped. It's insanity. These things are so close to us. And I'm not talking about any kind of I mean, legitimately family units, feelings, emotions, humor. I think humor is the biggest sign of intelligence there is.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got the humor. They've got I don't know. I love these things. And just really hate seeing them cooped up. But if I do see them cooped up, I like it at places like the North Carolina Zoo.
Right, where they have lots of room.
I encourage all of you, if you're around that area ever, to visit that zoo. It's really, really cool. Be ready for a walk.
Yes, absolutely.
But as far as being ready for something, I hope you're ready to be creeped out, intrigued, excited, and somewhat turned on. Because it's now time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
Coming to you direct from the Sideshow Intercontinental Center for Strange Events and Odd Irregularities, she's more stealthy than a Cold War era spy. If it's from beyond the grave or above the sky, there's only one girl who looks under every rock to see. She's got your mysterious goodies and spells Stacey with an E. It's now time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
So let's get to the news.
Let's talk about the fact that the paranormal field lost a big one. And by big one, I mean ufology, everything weird, everything strange. Dan Aykroyd's father, Peter, not to be confused with his brother Peter, who also does some acting and stuff on the side. But his father was 98 years old. And he died in the last couple of days. And just wanted to mention that because in his book, Peter's book, A History of Ghosts, the true stories of seances, mediums, ghosts, and Ghostbusters.
That sounds amazing.
It does. It really does. I can't believe I don't have that one, to be honest with you.
No, we'll have to get it.
Yeah, really. Anyway, it's got a foreword from his son in it. Talks about the fact of him and his brother growing up, had the family books on seances that his father had kept everything. And
oh, wow.
That's really, without him, there'd be no Ghostbusters. I just want to tell you a little bit about the description of the book.
Okay.
Peter Aykroyd spent his childhood watching his family's parlor seances through the crack of a basement door. Here, for the first time, Aykroyd tells the strange and delightful story that inspired his son, Dan, to make the mega-hit Ghostbusters. Part history, part family legend, A History of Ghosts starts in 1848 in upstate New York, where the spiritualist craze first began. Aykroyd introduces the reader to notable mediums while telling the story of the development of spiritualism, interweaving a personal history marked by a fascination with ghosts and spirits with a larger narrative about the role that the paranormal has played in our culture. Obviously, when you have a father like that, who obviously had a father like that.
Right.
What a long history of believers.
Right. I'm sure people don't really know. I mean, a lot of people know about Dan Aykroyd and the Ghostbusters movie and his fascination with the paranormal, but I didn't realize that it went back through his family like that.
Yeah, he should really have just done that.
That's amazing.
I mean, he's funny, but,
Right. He should just continue his father's work.
Yeah. I don't like to think of him as Saturday Night Live first now. I don't think of him as the researcher.
Right.
Because I don't know if he ever gets the credit or the serious nature that he should. Because when you hear Dan Aykroyd does this, it's kind of like hearing I don't know, Robin Williams also did porn. I don't know. Which would actually be very bloody interesting. Can you imagine?
He would make too many jokes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't go well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But anyway,
It'd be comedy porn.
it would be comedy porn. Corn? Ooh, no. No, I don't want to rent that one.
No.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so for the news this time, we're going to start with space news.
Space news.
Yes. So the first one is about 4 mysterious objects that have been spotted in deep space that are unlike anything ever seen before. Brand new objects.
That's
Isn't that
cool.
amazing? This is a new project that has been started. It's called the Evolutionary Map of the Universe, or EMU.
Oh,
The EMU project.
wow.
And the EMU project is a mapping of the night sky in radio frequencies. So they're using...
Look, sir, it's 99.3.
It's easy listening. They're using the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder.
Say it square.
That's... or the ASCAP.
Oh, my God.
Because, that's how acronyms work. And they've been using this radio telescope array to scan the night sky, and they have found distant ring-shaped islands that have been dubbed odd radio circles, or orcs.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Because they're calling them that because, they're
Because they're green.
shaped round.
Large.
And I don't think that they're green
Kinda dumb.
specifically, but now they don't know yet exactly how far away these orcs are, but they did find 3 of the 4 with their current mapping that they've been doing. And they found the 4th one when they went through some archival data collected by the Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope in India. So this helped them confirm that the objects were real instead of just some sort of anomaly or an issue with the current telescope.
Right.
Because they found one in past data. So they are very excited about this because it's not often that you find new objects. And it turns out that all 4 of these orcs are very bright at radio wavelengths, but they're invisible to visible, infrared, and X-ray light. So you
Sounds
can
like
only
UFOs.
see them in the radio waves. Unfortunately, they don't know what's causing it yet because it's a preliminary find, and everything that they can come up with, none of the explanations really fit all 4 of them. So it's
wormholes
still a
for UFOs.
study. Well, 2 of the orcs have galaxies in the center, so it's a possibility that something going on with those galaxies is causing this to happen. They're not really sure, but they're very excited about it. They do hope that this particular project, even though it's just started, will eventually find about 70 million new radio-type objects to add to the catalog. But this is the first one that is unlike anything they've seen, and they are hoping to get the paper published, but it is still under peer review right now.
Huh.
So it's very interesting that they are still finding things that they've never seen before. All right, so let's go on to the next story, and this is sort of just an update. And this is from a story that we talked about last July. And it's about a weird substance that was found on the far side of the moon by the Chinese rover. Now, I remember we talked about this. It was like this gel-like substance. It was very weird. Lots of speculation went around when they first found it. And they don't have the substance in hand, but they do have a spectrometer
They were like,
instrument
Chang.
on the moon that did some analysis and collected some data from the substance.
Don't tell us it's duck sauce, Chang.
And they are claiming, as expected, that it is made up of rock. So they're saying
The gooey
that
rocks.
it's similar to like impact melt. It has some glass in it. It's broken minerals. And
I've left some impact melt on some bellies before.
And it turns out that Dan Moriarty, the guy from Goddard Space Flight Center, NASA,
No, I thought that was a Sherlock villain.
he claims that their interpretation of the substance seems pretty reasonable. He fully agrees with their assessment
Thanks,
of
Dan.
what they've got. Yes.
Thanks, Dan. Go home. You're drunk.
It did note in this article that
That it was China.
that and that the way they were analyzing it, there was not fantastic light. Obviously, they didn't have it in a lab or anything like that. It was just their preliminary,
Fantastic light.
analysis from their machine on the moon. It's on the far side of the moon, so
The light's so dull. It's not very fantastic, is it? I mean, come on. They have to use that word.
I mean,
Ample? Could that have worked?
there's not ample lighting on
bright.
the far side of the moon.
Yeah. Fantastic light.
So it is just preliminary findings, but they wanted to, I
But
guess,
it's
go ahead
China.
and announce it so that nobody thought that there was like alien poo or anything.
Nobody thought they found COVID, maybe.
Right.
It's like they picked up COVID on the moon. And it happened because of Chang and his uncontrollable desires. He's like, oh, those moon rocks.
Well, while we're talking about the moon, let's do this other story that I have about another study that has been done on the moon where they found a higher concentration of metal in the moon's craters, which provides the scientists new insights to the moon's origin. Now, do you know what the current theory of the origin of the moon is right now?
That it's cheese?
Yes, I think that's it. I think that's the prevalent theory. No, I believe that the theory that they go on is that it is part of the Earth. Like a long time ago, there was an impact and, the Earth shot the moon out, like put it out into space,
Like,
and there it is. So the significance of this study, if they really, in the craters when they're studying the metals, if there really is more metal on the moon, then that kind of goes against that theory. It can't be a piece of the Earth if the composition is that different.
I'm surprised the Smithsonian didn't come and hide the moon.
Well, it's funny that people fight so hard against this. They like their theories, and that's just how scientists are sometimes.
Yeah.
They're like, this is what we've always thought, so we're
It's
not
got to
really
stay that
gonna...
way. Dagnabbit.
Exactly. But it's funny because, and I know that we've talked about this before, there are stories out there, ancient history and ancient oral traditions about a time before the moon.
Yes. And it's one of my favorite ancient oral traditions. Not my favorite, but it is one of my favorite ancient oral traditions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they really do have in several cultures the time before the moon, which I do believe. And
right.
The moon was trapped by Earth. But here's the thing: go look up "the moon is too perfect." Mm-hmm. Just look that up in your Google machine, and fall in that rabbit hole.
There's tons of conspiracies about the moon.
It's just too perfect. Mm-hmm. It works too perfectly. Mm-hmm. It's almost like we had a divine creator or something. I mean, what always cracks me up, okay? It really does. Whenever I'm listening to scientists and they're giving all these things, they're like, for that to happen, it would have had to be like a divine creator that made. I'm always like, really?
I mean,
really? Is that what it is? Is that far-fetched one? I mean, instead of just going, well, this actually gives ample credit to God, to there being God. And we can just say, instead of going after all these theoretical things, well, God did this.
Right.
And it, whatever God is to you.
He did it.
He did this.
Or she. Or whatever.
Or whatever, yeah. But, and listen, I'm not saying what you need to believe. I'm just saying that, yes, there's some things out there that are really hard to explain, but it's funny, they're always perfect. They always are aligned just right or whatever. And
exactly.
It makes you think.
It does. It does make you think. And all the weird things you've always heard about the moon, it rings like a bell.
Yeah.
And, we see that lunar wave thing going on. And I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
The lunar wave thing is strange.
It is.
And I have seen that.
Yes. And if you Google it about the time before the moon, you will there are several blogs out there, several articles that actually list all the places that it has been mentioned, in ancient writings, oral tradition among the Indians, where they talk about before there was a moon or before the moon was in the heavens, things like that. So it's not like it's hard to find that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the Indians were just on a bunch of drugs. I mean, because they everything I've got that's strange, the Indians back it up.
Right.
It's always just like, because no one will ever argue with them, It's always like, well, actually, the Native Americans, John, they said that there was big hairy creatures that came and raped their children and all this stuff, and then they're like, we left us some corn and they left us alone, and
they were here first,
and
I mean, they would know, right?
Yeah, and then it's like the thing with the Vikings, or the thing with the giants, the thing with the little people, and things with the leprechauns, and it's always like the Native Americans, and here we come, and we're the only ones that killed them. No, I don't want you to think about that, okay?
Right.
They had man-eating giants.
Right.
The reason they ganged up together and killed the giants, All the giant mounds
Right.
are because it was too much trouble to dig that big of a hole into the ground, is what I heard the theory was. So they built mounds.
Right.
Would they not still have to dig the dirt?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Thank you. So that's one of the big. That's a stupid one. But I'm just saying, they're out of everything that's come. Okay, let's just say it's all real, all 100% real. The Bigfoot, the freaking little leprechauns, minions. Okay, it's all real.
Right.
We're the only thing that's ever screwed them up,
Right.
and that makes me sad.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It's like, wow, they had 12-foot giants.
Right.
And we're the ones that put them on a dirty land that you can't grow anything on. That, I mean, it just, stuff like that just gets to me.
I know.
It really does.
I've been looking into the whole giant thing. It's so fascinating.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Oh, I can't wait to do our talks.
I know. All right.
Hey, before you do another story, I just want to let the people know. Let the people know. Sorry, it's a Baron Von Raschke thing. Let the people know, Mr. Announcer Man. We're having a real bad storm. The skies are black. The wind is blowing.
It's so beautiful.
You may even hear like something that sounds like a ceiling fan almost. It's the rain that's just pouring on the ceiling, and it's really loud, and it's like it's like cats and dogs coming down out there. So I wonder where that one came from.
I don't know.
It's raining cats and dogs.
dogs.
I mean, did it happen once? We've seen like lobsters and stuff
I know.
off in the sky.
Fish and frogs.
Yeah.
And all kinds of stuff rain.
Man, that would be messy. The cats would be okay.
Yeah, the cats would land on
I'm
their
not
feet.
sure the dogs would make it. The dogs would probably take out it, or the cats would probably take out more dogs actually on the way down, like blind them or something. Just
The cats riding the dogs down. And jump off at the last second.
Yeah. just walk, do that one little, where they're stretching out and they do that one shaky leg when they're stretching, like, just walk after that. Yeah. All right. Well, on with the news.
All right, so let's go on to this next story. And this is about some senators that want the public to see the government's UFO reports,
Well, yeah.
which I think is amazing. So the Senate Intelligence Committee has voted
That's an oxymoron.
to require U.S. intelligence agencies and the Defense Department to compile a detailed public analysis of all data collected on unidentified aerial phenomena, including intrusions recorded by Navy pilots in recent years.
Wow.
So the provision is contained in the annual Intelligence Authorization Bill, which still needs to be adopted by the full Senate, but just the fact that they've asked for this shows that they are as interested in all of this stuff as the rest of us are.
Right, absolutely, and probably more so because they get asked by us all the time.
Right. So the Senate panel, which is chaired by Senator Marco Rubio, is directing the executive branch to centralize all relevant information about such things collected from a wide range of sources, including the Office of Naval Intelligence, the FBI, satellites, other technical means, human spies, everything. They want a recounting of how agencies share such information and who is responsible for the task. And they want to know whether the aircraft in question could indicate a major technological breakthrough by a foreign adversary, and recommendations regarding increased collection of data, enhanced research and development, and additional funding and other resources. I mean, they want to know everything. And I guess if they are going to get briefed on it, they all want that to be available to the public as well. So it's not secret anymore.
So I'm just asking this because I have to. You don't really believe that anybody that drafted that believes there's any chance in hell that it's a foreign adversary. They have to put that kind of language in there just to not look crazy, right?
I think so, yes, just to get it to pass.
Yeah.
Because if you start saying we want to hear all your UFO stories, people look at you funny.
I just want to say this, okay?
Yeah.
Just so I know I'm not the only one. Do you think it's crazy sometimes how we have to say certain pleasantries, even though we both know the truth?
Right.
We have to, like if you go to the doctor, you have to say certain things, right?
Right.
To be treated the way you want to be treated.
Right.
For the ailment you have. And, or you go to church, you're going to say certain things, right? You talk to your spouse, you're going to say certain things. Even though you both know the truth and you're both okay with this facade.
Right.
But you're just like, you're okay with it.
Right.
Because that's the truth you because that's what you have to do.
And don't you find it odd that people that just speak plainly, like speak the truth, they're considered mentally deficient
and dangerous?
Yeah, like if someone just came in the room and started saying what everybody else was thinking, as a matter of fact thing, people would make excuses for them. Oh, well, they don't know any better. They have no filter. Or
I'll be honest with you. I had a friend one time that got sent away for a couple of weeks. Right. We were all like, "Where'd Robbie go?" And well, Robbie went to the nut house. Well, I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
It wasn't called the nut house.
Right.
But if there again, if they would just call it the nut house,
there you go.
Wouldn't be, Robbie'd know. He'd be like, "I'll be damned, I'm a nut," But he was in there, and they would have like group every day, and he told me all about it. I listened really, really well to him.
Right. You just want to be prepared.
So he was telling me about group therapy and everything that they would have, and how they would tell their feelings and all this stuff. But he told me that some of the people he met in there were just the most amazing characters of people that he had ever met in his life. And I was like, "How so?" And he said, "Well, it was people that didn't have restraints. They didn't care. They told you the truth, and they weren't just blubbering idiots. It wasn't that kind of nut house. It was for troubled teens. So it was teens that, had ran away, or they had problems with authority, or they had problems with drugs and alcohol and things like that. So, that's really what it was.
Right.
But a lot of the kids that they would have considered now, they would label them like bipolar or, whatever.
Right.
Those kids were in there. And these kids would openly talk about masturbation and make everybody uncomfortable.
Right.
And just be like, "What? Everybody does it." He told me one story was kids like, "You're getting your mental images right now of candy or whatever, this girl." And the guy's like, "No, what? No. Oh, I see you do it, Mr. McVeigh," or whatever. And those kind of people, which honestly, my friends or our friends that we've enjoyed the most, you think of like Jeff, right? At Shoney's.
Right.
Jeff at Shoney's with the old man is not normal.
Funniest thing I've ever seen.
It's not normal behavior.
No.
But it's something that he did because he told you like it was. Always. I've always got in trouble for telling it like it is. Always.
But you at least have some tact about you.
Oh, because of you.
You know how to.
I mean,
you have to have tact. There are situations where it's not appropriate.
It's business. Business is what keeps me.
Right.
But I have enough of it that I'm successful in my business because I tell people with a smile on my face, "No, Jimmy, you suck. Everything you're doing is wrong. I'm glad you're putting that much effort in, but you're really just doing it for no reason."
Like beating a dead horse.
Well, yeah, I told a guy 2 weeks ago about all his extra credit. I was like, "I don't work on extra credit.
Right.
I want you to do the assignment. I could care less what you do." Because he was like, "Well, what about this? What about this? What about this?" I was like, "I don't care.
Yeah.
I want you to have a life, a family life, and I want you to be rested up. I want you to smile when you come here because it's a great job. And I don't make you do that kind of stupid stuff. Don't shine the shoes, just, tie them, I mean, basically. And because what he was doing was coming with the shiniest shoes I've ever seen, putting little tap things on the bottom of them and all this stuff, but not tying them. So he kept falling down, Right. And I would just like to get that out of the way. Next year, we'll shine them.
Right.
But that's just what I'm saying. I just think it's strange. I think it's always bothered me that
you have to word things a certain way.
That you have to word them a certain way. It's just, is there a word for that?
I'm sure there is.
The fact that both people know. It's like, "You're the biggest I've ever been with." "Oh, really?" "Absolutely." "Well, how many guys have you been with?" "I don't have a clue. I don't remember anything about it. It's almost like I never was with anybody." "Oh. Okay." Guys never think about, well, how does she remember that but not remember the other thing? I mean, I'm just saying, there's pleasantries that you want to hear. Okay. You don't want anybody to, you don't want you're some guy to be like, "Well, at least I felt it with the other girl," I mean, it's just things that don't get said.
I mean, you don't, that's just being nice. And
it is.
It
is, but it's also honesty. It really, truly. If people were more honest, think about us. We're really straightforward, honest with each other.
Right.
And And it's been trials, you know, and getting to that level, but we have the best life
Right.
you can imagine because of our ability to be honest with one another.
True.
Stacey didn't used to tell me when I was being a jackass. Like she would get mad or you know, get quiet or whatever, poison my food slowly, whatever it was. But, you know, a few years ago, probably 10 years ago, she broke that glass ceiling and learned all the words she needed to say and you know, all the things she needed to do.
Right.
And really got to that point where she gave it to me. It helps.
It does. But of course, we're married. You don't talk like that to people that you don't know.
I guess I just want more honesty out there. I think if we had all the honesty right now, that we wouldn't have all the dissent, because people are not honest with their true feelings. What they want to do is get their beliefs over,
Right.
and they want to win the war. Okay, and I won't get too political on this. I'm going to keep it very passive aggressive here.
Right.
But they want to win the war. So they will say things that they don't entirely believe in or believe with. And that's not how you and I are. Now, you know, we think one way politically. But even before this broadcast, we were watching something and not agreeing with something, like
Right.
one part of it.
Right.
We're like, no, that's not right. We know better than that. I like that. It's a healthy skepticism.
It is. You have to have that with everything, because not everything is black and white like that. Like you're not going to believe everything from one side and not from the other.
Right.
It's absolutely a mixture.
And just because you don't believe in one part of it doesn't mean you're poo-pooing the whole idea.
Right.
You know, you could still love your candidate and disagree with aspects of that candidate's decisions.
Absolutely.
And instead of blindly following either way, you look stupid. When you blindly follow everything, you know, it looks like a sheep.
Right.
I have a hard time believing that anybody truly wants to bring down America.
Right.
You know, I really think that people, as misguided as they may be, have in their own head think they have the best interest of that in mind, right?
Right. Right.
And I guess looking for that good is all what I want. I just want people to do that just for a week. Look for the good in one another.
Right.
And you know, quit. But it's impossible because no one tells the truth. So anyway, I'm done. Go ahead. I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. So back to the story. So we don't know if it's going to pass. You know, the bill's going to pass, but if it does, they do claim that it's to be completed by the Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Defense within 180 days of when it passes.
Oh, you can go around the world in that time.
Yeah, you can.
In a blink.
So they absolutely want it. If it gets passed, they want it done immediately and not stall. They don't want them to stall on doing it. So
well, let's see. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, look at the things that have been stalled. You know, and are a little bit. I think that's the most important thing ever. But I don't think everybody else would.
Well, if you are interested in more reports from what the government has and what they've released and not released, you can go to the website, and we've talked about it on here before, The Drive, where Tyler Rogaway, he's done this article where it lists 25 reports that were obtained through FOIA requests from the Air Force Safety Center. And these are all reports that include things of unidentified aerial objects. And so it's a really interesting read. I just wanted to mention it here so anybody that was interested in seeing it can go over there, and they're all listed out. He's very thorough with what he does, and he's listed each report and gave all the information and links and all that stuff.
So it's actually wins that we had from doing it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes.
I will say this, a little note on FOIA request. Now, don't go, you know, trying to get FOIA requests on, I don't know, Roswell. You know, on the big ones, on the ones you just watched on TV.
Right.
Okay, more than likely someone's done that.
Most likely.
It's the ones where you heard about a couple of black vehicles going up the road and, you know, and there was an asteroid hit close to your house or whatever, right? And mysteriously something was on the news and then it wasn't on the news in the afternoon.
Right.
Things like that. Go outside the box and do FOIA requests on those. That's probably not going to have the highest classification on it.
Right.
Because it's something that a local agency may have done or
but they're hoping that it gets swept under the rug.
Exactly.
And people didn't notice.
Exactly. So it could just as easily, because remember, we do have Troy working in the office.
Right.
And he's probably sitting there right now, like chomping his gum or doing that little thing where he pops it every time he chews.
His pay's been reduced. Because,
he's playing some
hard times.
Pop It game on his iPad and stuff like that. And he just exactly. He was just told he wasn't essential. So
he's sticking extra stuff in the envelopes.
Yeah.
You never know. All right. Well, while we're in the middle of our space news, I thought I would go ahead and round up the latest news stories that have gone out there about finding life in the galaxy. And, these come up a lot where they speculate where we might find life and when we might find life. And so I always think it's interesting because they always seem to come in spurts. Like they decide that now we need to put this seed out there about where there might be life and how we might find it.
Well, as far as your seeds coming in spurts, we've had this year just a galactic, butt ton
right
of theoretical, hey, this could be Titan or it could be, and they keep telling us all these places that could have life, it could harbor life. And I think that they're finally getting to some of the things that I've thought about for a long time. Like maybe it's under the water,
right?
Maybe it's a kind of species that we're nothing like. We don't understand. They're always like, well, we're looking for the carbon-based life, whatever. Perhaps this is a completely different kind of life form, and we don't understand it. There's no way for us to understand it. Maybe it burns like the sun, and they're just a pure energy. They're beautiful or whatever, but they're intelligent,
right?
And because we don't know. That's the whole thing. Underneath cloud cover, think about how many planets are just completely thickly covered with clouds that we've never been able to see under, or like the ongoing storms,
right?
And those type things. They're out there. Well, not planets, but moons are like that, and some planets are like that. So I don't know. Just a thought.
Well, this first story that came out, and this one's really interesting. It's about a new research study that was done, and it was led by the University of Nottingham, and it was published.
Nottingham. I love that place.
It was published in the Astrophysical Journal, and they've taken a new approach to the problem on whether or not there is intelligent life in our own galaxy. And according to their study, they calculate that there could be more than 30 intelligent civilizations in our own galaxy. And so this is obviously an enormous advance, to the previous estimates, which were none.
Yeah.
So the professor of astrophysics at the University of Nottingham. His name's Christopher Consellis. He led the research. He explains that there should be at least a few dozen active civilizations in our galaxy under the assumption that it takes, 5 billion years for intelligent life to form on other planets, like it did on Earth. And so they're basically looking at evolution, but on a cosmic scale. So it's just interesting that they've put this research out there. They're getting it published. They're putting out the actual, hypothesis that there is intelligent life out there.
Right.
So along with that story, there was another story about Europa. And of course, Europa is one of the main targeted moons that they claim might have life. And they're saying that there's now more evidence that Europa's ocean is habitable. Now, Europa, of course, is one of Jupiter's moons.
Yep, it is.
And at a conference that they had recently, and it was virtual this year, obviously, like all conferences are, they announced that there's new research that supports that the idea that Europa's ocean is habitable is an underground ocean and is likely similar in many ways to our open air oceans on Earth. So they've put this forth as actual evidence. They believe that there could very likely be that life in the ocean.
That'd be amazing.
Yes. And so then there was another story about Titan. You mentioned Titan.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? So Saturn's moon, Titan. Now, this story is actually about how the moon is moving away from the ringed planet faster than previously believed. So the main part of the article is about how they're looking at new ways that the solar system changes because this moon is moving at a higher rate than they thought it could. But half of the article, and even in the title, it claims Titan, which could support life. And half of the end of the article talks about how it's a source of fascination for researchers because they suggest that it could support life and how they've, done all these studies there. And and just, spent a lot more time on the supporting life than they did on the, moving away from Saturn part of the article. So I thought that was really interesting.
Wow.
And there's one more study that has been done, and it's like scientists just grab onto these studies now and are just like, yes, alien life, I'll do a study. So this is a study that claims that planets that have a, quote, significant airborne dust could be home to alien life. So these are planets that are not particularly in our solar
Dust?
system.
Who
Yes,
said dust? What did you hear dust at, youngling?
We've been listening to his Dark Materials, so
It's amazing.
it is very good. So this research was published in the journal Nature Communications, and it notes that exoplanets may have a better shot at having moderate temperatures if they contain a dusty atmosphere, and they compare it to that sci-fi classic Dune, if it has that sort of topography and that atmosphere. And so they claim that these findings add the number of exoplanets that are able to host life, as well as possibly extending what they're calling the planet's habitable zone. Because if you have that dusty atmosphere, then that helps heat and cool the planet, and it can essentially be further away from its host star than they thought before. So interesting study, just all kinds of articles just pointing to, hey, we think there's life, there might be life, there could be life here. So very different from what it used to be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all over the place, and it's so accepted now. And I think that people are waiting for it.
Yeah.
I believe it's become an anticipation now.
Yeah. Now it's not a surprise anymore when they say it. Now we're just like, okay, find it already.
I think we've had so much happen right now that it would be the perfect time if you were a civilization that's been monitoring us.
Right.
When can we come down there and they'll willfully let us rule them?
Right.
Well,
right.
Maybe if you came down right now and said, well, we're going to make everybody work together. And, it's one world government. Don't get your panties in a wad, because what you're worried about obviously doesn't matter because, hey, look, it's us. So it kind of makes it null and void, right?
Right.
And, some of the biggest scientific things, we talked about it in the monologue with evolution. I'm sorry, but there's so much proof of giants that I think evolution is a crock.
Right.
I mean, I see the fact that we evolve as a species, supposedly, because of learning or education or what. But then, do we really? Because look back at the ancient Greeks.
Right.
Look at the poetry. Look at the writing. Look at the way they lived, harmoniously, and they celebrated other cultures. And they wanted other cultures to come intermingle,
right.
even to mate with them or whatever, because they wanted to learn. They wanted to take your knowledge. And when Alexander the Great, when we had the Library of Alexandria, the missive of it was the fact that we're going to get all the knowledge. That was what it was all about, right? So then you had these dirty redneck Romans come in there and just burn the crap out of everything.
Right.
And, not worry about anything but, domination, rape, rah, rah, all this stuff, right?
Right.
And all these wonderful thespians, got murdered. And, I think that we really devolved from that point.
Right.
And, we had the Dark Ages. Well, the Dark Ages are going to happen when, what happened in year 0 or whatever. So we had Christianity come along, and, the problem was not Christianity as much as it was the Roman Church. So you had the Church of Rome and the Vatican that put the kibosh on everything, on free thought, on, women are going to do this is their place, men are going to do this, you can't do this, you have to be with your little Puritan wife and never look, don't look at her, all this stuff that made people really angry and uptight,
right?
And completely controlled everything for so long. And you can't learn this stuff. It's heresy to read this or to look at this or to think of this or to have any argument whatsoever. It really pigeonholed us as a species, where if you look at the accomplishments, I don't care if it was aliens or whatever, but the Egyptians were brilliant. Okay.
Right.
The ancient Egyptians were brilliant. Even if they moved into that pyramid,
right,
they did a whole lot on their own.
They did.
Okay. And they were bloody brilliant. Even the Celts. You look at the stone circles and everything. They were brilliant. harboring magic. There's a lot out there that pretty much says, yeah, the magic was open and it was working. There's just, you look at ancient Japan.
Yep.
The beautiful art and the scenery and even castles and things like this. So I think that it all went backwards because of control and then fear of losing that control.
Right.
And it reminds me of now, because all people had to say during these dark ages was heresy.
Right.
And it's like another word
right
that people like using. And so it's just crazy to me that we can have a cancel culture basically then,
right, based on religious
things that would cancel everybody,
right,
and same thing now, and it's everything people hated that for,
right,
but they don't see that they're doing the same thing,
right,
and it really stifles what we are. So I just think evolution itself, I believe we'd be much further with creation, with ideas, with imagine all those hundreds of years, hell, 1,000 years, 1,500 years, that where you were allowed to think outside the box,
right,
and we weren't. Even some of the greatest works that were ever done, look at Da Vinci. Da Vinci had to pay off people and go in catacombs to dissect humans,
right, to get his knowledge. And thank goodness he did.
Yeah, he could have been killed for it, and most of the stuff you've ever heard as breakthroughs were people that were either hung or killed or torn apart.
Right.
And then hundreds of years later, we found out, well, they were right.
Right.
And
what a shame.
What a wonderful martyr they were,
Right.
It's very,
I'm sure if they had a choice.
It's very frustrating.
It is.
Because they were the ones that were telling us the truth and they were the ones that were right. So yeah, I think that as far as evolution, I have a problem with it. I do, because we've had different, every time they find something like Neanderthals, Neanderthals are not us.
Right.
They're
different.
It was different. And they even say that all now.
Right.
Because it's scientific, but they don't say anything about evolution. Like, it should have been like, well, we know Neanderthals are not us. That's not ancient us.
Right.
Right. They used to teach us that, right? Like when we were kids, we used to be those cavemen with the big furrowed brows and, all this stuff. But now it's like, oh, that's all different stuff. And they found the little hobbit race and, all these big breakthroughs. But anytime you go back, you can go back and find a human skeleton. And the only thing that really changed that I see as far as evolution, and I do buy this, is the size. Like humans have gotten bigger,
right,
and taller, and a lot of that's nutrition,
right.
So we live longer and all this stuff. Just diet, exercise, knowing more about the body. It's going to happen. Medical care,
right.
Not eating poop.
Right.
Not rubbing poop in wounds. It kind of helps.
Right.
And we'll keep getting that way, that the things with your eyes, if you're looking at computers all the time, they're saying that our eyes are going to get bigger. They will. That stuff I get.
Right.
It's the big drastic monkey to human. I think monkeys are monkeys. And I just think
they are very human-like.
They are.
But
They are. So is Neanderthals. And they were actually able to interbreed with Neanderthals. Arguably, they still do. I've got some friends that, I'm pretty sure. It's just something to think about.
It is. I agree. All right. So I only have one more space story before we move on to some more paranormal stuff. This one I thought was really interesting. And this is about a massive star that has gone missing.
Mama said what?
Strange. So it's not in our own Milky Way, but in another galaxy about 75 million light years away. There is a star that is so hot that it glows a crystal blue. And it claims that it shines a couple million times brighter than our own sun. And even as stars go, it's massive. And astronomers have studied it for like 2 decades, almost 2 decades. And so one day last year, when they looked at the latest observations, they realized they couldn't find it anymore. So a doctoral student in astrophysics at Trinity College Dublin, his name is Andrew Allen, he checked and rechecked the data. Now the star is too far away for telescopes to spot it directly, but they look for like the distinct signatures of the blue star is the imprint of the light coming from the home galaxy, and they have all their different ways to find it. But all of the traces of this particular star had vanished. So he thought, well, maybe it's Earth's fault. The weather's not that great, and maybe the telescope's malfunctioning a bit, and I'll just check again, the next time. And so he went and used a different instrument a few months later, but once again, absolutely no star. And what was really interesting about the fact that the star was gone is that there was no evidence of a supernova. So normally when stars explode, they make the supernova, then it collapses into a black hole. And this didn't do that. It just simply was not there anymore. So they haven't, ruled out any type of explanation. They feel like it could have simply skipped over the supernova part and went straight to the black hole, which is very unusual. But there are some less dramatic possibilities. Perhaps one team of astronomers has suggested, and I like this one, that, blue stars are quite moody and they're prone to dramatic shifts in brightness. So perhaps it just dimmed after it was especially bright for a while. So now it's in a period of dimming. And in a quirk of timing, a cloud of cosmic dust has moved right in front of it at the same time, obscuring it from view. So that's an explanation that it could be possible.
Right.
And another team of astronomers claim that perhaps it was not a star at all, that what they'd been observing was in fact a supernova, and that the way it was flickering just made it seem like the light from a star, since they were looking at it indirectly. And so now it's gone, it's done its black hole thing, and they can't see it anymore.
I disagree with that one.
So
I disagree with that one because
right,
the brightness that it was.
Right.
It was so bright and so strong and so powerful.
It was.
There would have been a transition time.
See, that's what I would think.
They would have noticed the differences.
Right. And they claim that if it was a supernova, it would have been visible back in the 90s, but unfortunately nobody was looking back then. Mm-hmm. So there's no way to tell. So they really don't know what's happened to it.
I thought they'd been waiting for this one to nova.
I don't think so. Maybe. I'm not sure.
It must have been a different one. That's just crazy, the fact that a star goes missing.
Right.
It makes you think the big star eaters out there. I mean,
I know. I mean, you never know what could have happened. And for an astronomer to just be like, I have no idea what's happened.
Well, I mean, some of the most compelling footage I've ever seen is of what looks like alien craft against our own star. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're refueling. I mean, because you actually could see a hose or something tethered to the sun.
Right.
And it's there. Okay, it's not fake, it's not noise. It's happened several times. And I used to watch those helio viewers all the time to see this.
Right.
Or the people that watch the helio viewers, I should say. I would never have that much patience. But they would come on every day and be like, well, here's what this was. And sometimes you'd go 6 months without one.
Right.
But they were real careful to, they watched it so much, they knew what the picture noise looked like.
Right. And what was weird and what was not weird. What I find interesting about those is I've seen some of that footage as well, and it doesn't really, like, you have to think about how massive that alien spacecraft must be for you to be able to see.
Bigger than the Earth.
Yeah, because I mean, even bigger than stuff you see in Star Wars and stuff like that. I mean, think about how big those are.
Our mind doesn't work that way.
And it always blows my mind to think, if we can tell that that's there, that must be unbelievably massive.
Yeah, well, I mean,
just unreal.
I totally believe that those things are out there. I really do. Like we haven't heard of in a long time.
What's that?
You'll remember better than me. What was the device that they called that they thought was around the planet? Was it a planet or a star?
A star, around Tabby's star, remember?
Yeah, Tabby's star.
The Dyson sphere.
The Dyson sphere, exactly.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes.
That thing we haven't heard of, and it was all the rage for a while.
Yeah, with all the different explanations for why it was dimming and why it was not dimming. And
I wonder if there's any update on that anywhere.
I think the last update we got was that they were claiming the cosmic dust thing. There's just a lot of dust, and I mean, I haven't seen anything recently.
That seems like a problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to look that up and see.
I wonder if they find out. I wonder if the aliens monitoring us, are like, oh crap.
Yeah, they've noticed. Quick, move it.
Yeah, no, throw the dust.
Oh, there you go. That's that. If they haven't, you've just given them that idea.
Yeah,
So-
or our government, the ones that are actually in. I hate even saying government
Right.
because the senators and everybody trying to get that's our government.
Right.
The secret government,
Right.
that's behind everything. You never know the cabal,
Right. Whatever it is.
whatever it is, lets them know, hey, hey, you need to let them know. What? That was my reptilian.
Yes, I'm aware of what it is.
Oh.
All right, so let's move away from the space news now into something a little more paranormal.
You sound like we're touching it in a bad way. You're like, let's back away from
back
the
away
space
from
news,
the
sir.
space news.
6 feet, sir. Sir.
So this is a story about a new app called Randonautica. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
All right, so it's a really interesting app, and if you go to the website, they have their website for randonautica.com, and they call it the world's first quantumly generated choose-your-own-adventure reality game. The way the app works is you put in, it knows your location, it's a GPS thing, and you set your intent on what you want to find. It's going to send you on an adventure. It's going to give you random GPS coordinates for you to go to. And you can pick how far away you want to go. You can give it a general area, like if you want to go 10 minutes away, if you want to go, 50 miles or whatever. And the people that have been using it, a lot of teens have been using it and posting videos on TikTok. They call it randonauting. And what you do is you put in, you can put in a search term like, I don't know, happy, and it'll send you somewhere, and supposedly you'll see something that is related to happy. And you're supposed to keep your intention in your mind, and the idea is that you can manipulate what it gives you by just your thoughts and your intentions. So it's really an interesting... No.
Getting my intention is dangerous.
So what it'll give you,
John, honey, why did we end up at the National Librarian Festival? Wait a second, librarians with sexual deviant problems. I don't understand. And all the women have their hair in a bun. Oh wait, they're looking at our direction. They're all taking their bun down at the same time, scratching their hair and making it. What's going on? Yeah. Don't go on my intentions.
So the app, once you put in all your information, it will give you attractors, what they call attractors, voids, or anomalies. And anomalies are the ones that are supposedly influenced by thoughts, and it urges you to focus on your intent. Now, the reason this has become so popular, I think some YouTube people have been doing it, but recently there was a story that went around of these teenagers that were exploring Seattle with this app, and they put in the term travel. And that was what their intention was. They wanted to go somewhere that had something to do with travel. And so it took them to a random spot on a beach. That's where the GPS pinged it. And so they all drove to that random spot. And when they got to that part of the beach, they noticed a suitcase floating in the water. And they thought that that was very relevant because it's suitcase, travel, that sort of thing. So they decided to go and take a look at it. And whenever they're videoing all of this. And so in the video, they can be seen laughing and poking the suitcase. And once they managed to open it, they noticed that it smelled really bad. And they're like, it really stinks. And they called the police. And it turns out that there was a dead body stuffed in trash bags, stuffed in the suitcase. So they were completely
Are we sure that they didn't
out.
find this app and then concoct a way to kill Sally?
No, I'm pretty sure they would be able to tell by the remains how old it was. But that's not the only. Now, since this story has come out, of course, a lot of other people have been saying, oh, I found this creepy thing and I found this creepy thing. Not all the stories have videos, but there's definitely a Reddit thread on it. Of course, it's big on TikTok. But there are also some really good stories as well. I've seen some where people, like I said, wanted to see something happy, and it took them to a place where there were rock sculptures of like smiley faces and suns and things like that. And it's all really how you interpret what you see, I suppose. But, if you look at all of the reports of what people have found, and they encourage you to share, on the web,
Of course they do.
what you come across. It does seem like it works for some people. Now, some people it doesn't. But again, it's all based on how well you can project that intent.
Not everybody can see the sailboat, Stacey.
That's true. I can't see the sailboat. I have good intentions, but I have trouble with the sailboat. But how well you focus on it, I suppose. And I think we need to try this.
Yeah, I think so too.
Absolutely need to.
I think we should stop the show right now, download this, and start the blog and just go.
Go. What search term will we put in? We put in something creepy or haunted or
I don't know.
Beautiful.
Do you really want to find something beautiful?
I don't know. I saw a story where someone put in inspirational and it led them to this really beautiful creekside space with like flowers, and it was amazingly pretty.
I don't know, man. What do you want?
I don't know. I feel like everybody does like creepy and stuff like that, but that seems like what we would probably do. Well, I would try a lot of different things, but the thing about us is we wouldn't need it to be local. We would need it. We could do wherever. But they do encourage you to do it during the day and not alone, and not to trespass, because sometimes it does give you, I mean, they're random, so there's a chance it'll give you coordinates that on private property. Absolutely do not trespass. We're not saying that. Be careful, if you do it.
So I would say my thoughts on this is that it probably uses the technology that is available to use the GPS data to let us know, like, if you're looking for something pretty, here's a park, or here's this, here's that. Yeah, random, but generate, something close to that, right?
Right.
So maybe there's 100 words that can come off of 100 of one thing, right?
Right.
And it knows, well, let's use this. This is kind of related. And, it took it to the beach because, beach travel.
Right.
And it just happened to be, we're talking Seattle.
Right. Right.
Is a dead body in a suitcase that odd? Probably not.
I don't know. So that's one of the reasons why I want to try it, because I'd like to see if anything really anomalous occurred that we could not say was, like maybe if we saw something that wasn't there all the time, or if we saw something really relevant.
Well, people like to fit things into what they
do. They do. Like if you had a specific intent in mind, like I said, it's all how you interpret what
you
find.
So we really need to just stay scientific on it.
Yes, and absolutely document everything we see at that particular place and see if it really worked.
10-4. Let's do it. And if you guys do it, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really
I'd be
interested.
Excited to know. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about some treasure. So this is just a story about how Forrest Fenn's treasure has been found.
Oh my God, that was, ladies and gentlemen, let you know, that was our lead story a month ago. We actually sat down and did half a show a few times, but it just wasn't working correctly the way we needed it to, or something happened. And this is one that our whole, like, everybody that sends us news sent us this story. And the funny thing for all you cats, I love it when you send me news. I had this one like 7 hours before you guys, but
I think one time when we started the show was when the time Kyler took a dive off the couch.
Oh yeah.
And we ended up having to take him to the emergency room. Poor little thing.
That was harsh.
But I did want to mention it because it's historic. It's not going to happen. We're not going to be talking about Forrest Fenn's treasure anymore. It has been found.
And we've talked about it a lot, so you had to tell. That
we have, especially recently, because people have died looking for this
'Cause
treasure.
I talked about it being cursed now.
And so the person that found it, now the person has not been named, and they did send a photo to Forrest Fenn to confirm the discovery. And there's also a video out there of Forrest Fenn with the treasure. You can see the box, you can see photos of all of it. It's amazing. It's exactly what he said: gold coins and statues and gems and all sorts of things in this very ornate carved box. And I think they said that it was worth over $1 million. It was found in the Rocky Mountains, and they did not disclose the exact location though, which I think is very frustrating for all the people that were still looking for it. I think they should have at least said, oh, hey, this is where it was.
Why wouldn't they tell where it was?
I am not sure. I found that a little odd myself. I mean, I think that they will eventually, but very strange.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. And it says that an estimated 350,000 people have tried to find the treasure. Some people even quit their jobs and just nonstop tried to find it.
Yeah, they're completely obsessed. I wonder what they're doing now.
I don't know, but I find it funny that it's been so long that this treasure worth over $1 million. I mean, that's fantastic, but you can't live the rest of your life on that. I mean, yes, it's worth $1 million, but you're going to need to get your job back, okay?
Right, yeah.
So, all right. So speaking of treasure, some hidden silver was found at a 600-year-old castle that was occupied by Nazis during World War II. So these are some experts that have discovered a long-lost chest full of silver in the Nowy Sachs Royal Castle, which dates back to the 14th century.
Did a guy named B.J. Blastowitz find it? Or?
Possibly, but they probably wouldn't tell you that.
Yes.
The news outlet that did the story, they noted that this particular castle was occupied in June of 1941 by the German army. They turned it into a barracks and an ammunition depot. So included in the find was 103 silver objects that were discovered. It was different things like homeware, goblets, cutlery, primarily made in Austria or Poland, obviously stuff that was confiscated and hidden by the Nazis. And it's just amazing that they happened to find this. I know that they've been looking for a ton of things that were hidden and stolen by the Nazis from the Jews.
Wow.
And on the same note, there is also another story that came out before they found the silver about a Nazi diary that supposedly reveals secret locations of more of this World War II treasure. So this particular diary was written 75 years ago by an SS officer using the pseudonym Michaelis. And the journal outlined Nazi commander Heinrich Himmler's plans to hide all the stolen European riches, the artifacts, the priceless works of art, all these things.
Wow.
And the diary specifically listed 11 sites where the Nazis concealed looted gold, jewels, priceless paintings, and religious objects. Now, supposedly, this diary was kept secret and hidden away in the town of Quedlinburg, Germany. It was in the possession of a Masonic lodge, and this particular lodge has existed for clearly a very long time, more than 1,000 years, and it counted elite Nazi officers among its members during the time of the Third Reich. So supposedly one of these members used this pseudonym and wrote this diary, and he controlled Nazi transport in southwestern Poland. So in later years, the lodge members also included descendants of these Nazi officers. So they've just kept this diary secret and hidden. So in 2019, the lodge gave the diary to a Polish foundation named Salesian Bridge. And this foundation announced in March of last year that it had received the journal from its German, what they called partners, who gifted it to the people of Poland as what they're saying is an apology for World War II. And included with this journal was a map that purportedly pinpointed the location of a well on the grounds of a place called Hochberg Palace, where some Nazi treasure was hidden. Now, this is only one of the locations that they've revealed from this diary. And experts have determined that the diary was written at the time of World War II, but the authenticity has not yet been confirmed. And of course, they have not gone to this location and found this well with this gold. This particular palace stands in a region of Poland that gained notoriety during and after World War II as a location where the Nazis concealed goods, though. So it is a very likely location. That area is riddled with caves and mines and tunnels, castles and palaces with big, huge dungeons, lots of places that they could hide large works of art and gold and things like that. So hopefully they do claim that the owners of this palace plan to refurbish and restore the building, which has fallen into disrepair. And during the upcoming conservation work, they're going to include a search for this supposed well. I believe the story is that the Nazis hid the gold there. They killed the witnesses, dumped the bodies in the well, and used explosives to seal it up. So that I guess there wouldn't be any witnesses to where the gold was hidden. So they're going to eventually search for this well to see if they can actually find gold. And if they do find gold there, then it proves that this diary is real, and they will have 10 other locations where they can go and search.
Right.
So very interesting. I'll be interested to see. It doesn't give a date on when they plan on doing that. Not sure they would tell people when they plan on doing that, but.
So just throwing this out there, not to poop on any good-hearted stuff.
Right.
If those locations were sitting there in a book available to the descendants, all this time.
Right.
Do you think they were all such good, wonderful, honorable people that nobody ever took a well-funded secret exploration, to go recover some of this stuff?
Well, it's not going to be as easy as all that. Like if this particular first location is on the grounds of a palace and it's hidden, I don't think a bunch of Germans can just walk into Poland.
Yeah,
and
I don't think it would be easy either.
Digging.
Okay.
Right.
I don't think it'd be easy either. But if you're talking millions of dollars, right?
Right.
You're talking never have to think about what people do to rob a bank, right?
True.
This is something people don't even know that you're doing it.
Right.
So if it's in a freaking cave somewhere or something,
Right.
you just bring people in and then kill them. I mean, that's what their grandfather did, you know?
I suppose. I think maybe they're trying to ascend that.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm just saying, it would be awful tempting.
It would be. It would be. Maybe they don't believe that it's real, or maybe they think that it's already been found, or I don't know. It just depends.
Let's see what happens.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on and let's talk about something that scientists are doing. And this is a story about a chimera that's been made, human-mouse chimera. Now, I know we've done stories like this before, but this particular story had something in it that I thought was really interesting and a little bit scary, so I wanted to point it out. So this is a newly created mouse-human embryo, and when they ended this experiment, it contained up to 4% human cells, which is the most human cells yet of any chimera or any organism made from two different kinds of DNA. And what they figured out with this particular study, see, at first they thought that they couldn't mix the human cells with the mouse cells because they were two different species. And what they discovered is that it wasn't the fact that it was two different species, it was the fact that the human cells were more mature than the mouse cells. So they found a way to shock the human cells. It's all in the article. It's very technical, but they found a way to shock them into being less mature than they were so that they could commingle with the mouse cells.
Right.
And here's the discovery they made that was so surprising that is a little bit scary. Once they mixed the DNA, the human cells grew as fast as the mouse cells. So instead of taking as long as a human takes to develop, they developed much quicker at the pace a mouse would develop, which I thought was really interesting. They did end the experiment after 17 days. Once some of the chimeras got to be 4% human, they just kiboshed it. And they were very surprised at how fast the human cells developed. They don't really know where this study is going to go. I mean, clearly all of these studies are all about, they claim human organs and, you know, medical uses, et cetera. But it was really interesting that they found that they could make that human cell develop much quicker than it should have.
That's not good at all.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. And they did claim that the human cells were found throughout the embryos, including the liver, heart, retina, and red blood cells. It was very human, in other words, for a mouse.
Oh my God.
What?
Oh my God. You know how these people, how much they like to make acronyms and oh God. This is it, man. They're making the rat army. They are. They're making an army of rat men.
Are they?
They are. They've been trying to fill our heads with it, with like that commercial, you know, like where rats in the basement but it's the band.
Oh, right. I
and
love that commercial.
they're singing round and round just to show us that rat are people.
Right.
And I'm telling you, man, it's like that slow thing, right? What if they've got an army of rat men and it's like, what would they call them? Like government engineered rat invaders?
Government engineer Jerry?
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, you know what we have to do to stop it?
Get Tom.
That's right.
So what could Tom be? Tom would be like terrible ornery mercenary. We just go find all the orneriest freaking mercenaries you can
To kill the rat men?
Yeah.
Army?
The Jerry.
Planet of the Rats.
Tom and Jerry. Gets real.
There you go. New movie.
Government engineered rat invaders.
Wow. That's a whole new thing. Okay. So anyway, interesting implications there of what they've discovered. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. All right. So let's move on. And this is sort of a sad story about hundreds of mysterious elephant deaths.
Oh, no.
And that they're baffled.
Do they have any like leads on who did it?
They do not. And this is in Botswana. And the Botswana wildlife officials
Maybe the aliens are abducting elephants now, and they when they drop them down, it just doesn't work with the same ratio as the cows. It's like,
They can't even abduct them. They're trying. The ray's not good enough. So officials told reporters that they have now verified 281 carcasses and that the deaths were concentrated in an area of 8,000 square kilometers that's home to about 18,000 elephants. Now, at the time of this article, I think there's actually been more. I believe it's over 350 now. So there's definitely been a lot more. They have no idea what's doing it, and some of the pictures are horrible. Some of the elephants, it looks like, died slowly, and then some of them look like they just died and fell over on their faces. They don't believe it's poachers because a lot of them still have tusks. Nothing's been scavenged, that sort of thing. And there are also lots of live elephants still walking around that area. So they really have absolutely no idea. And they have been criticized for acting too slowly.
Right.
They still don't even have lab results back yet. Like the lab results from some of the deceased elephants have just been sent to different labs for testing. And so they are still trying to figure out what this odd thing could be. It's very unusual. You just don't hear about that kind of mass die-off in such a large animal.
It's horrible. My
Yes.
God. I mean, they don't have any clue whatsoever what's doing it.
They don't. All they've done is they've ruled out poaching, like I said, and anthrax, in the water supply or something like that, just because there are still quite a few live elephants that are still using the same areas. So that just makes it that much more unusual. Wow. But they do say that anyone that spots another elephant carcass, they mark them when they see them. And then if you spot a new one, you're supposed to report it so that they can go and, check it out and see.
Jesus.
So it's very strange. And it does seem like some of the carcasses have been scavenged, like with vultures who have eaten some of the flesh, and there's not been like vulture die-offs. So I don't think poisoning would be the culprit, but I don't know. It's very unusual. They're asking people not to touch the dead elephants. Not that I think you would, but
right.
Just in case, because you really don't know what it is.
That's crazy, man.
Isn't that unusual? I've never heard of anything like that.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. I hope they get that figured out pretty quick.
Yes, so I'll update whenever they have those lab test results back. Hopefully it won't take as long as it's taken up to now to get some answers about that. All right, so let's move on to a ghost story.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is a story from Iceland.
Yes.
And it's about a ghost that was driven off the farmstead by a professional exorcist.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting story because this professional exorcist was hired by a very high-tech power company that has recently bought the land in order to build a new station.
Are there low-tech power companies?
I don't know. Maybe if it's like a wheel in the water.
Yeah, I
And
was just
that's how you get your
wondering.
electricity.
I think Iceland has some.
Perhaps, I don't know. The owner of the farm that sold the land insisted that the exorcism was necessary, and so the project manager at this power company just thought, he recommended it. Absolutely, we're going to do it. Now, I will note that the farm is close to a notorious elf hill.
Right.
And the company has designed the layout of their structures around the hill so as not to take any chances in disturbing any elves that possibly live there.
In all my research over the years, of course, elves and little people have been a huge part of that. In Iceland, especially the Icelandic folk, they are so, their belief in elves is gigantic. It's really devout. And
right.
for a large number of the population, and people they don't scoff at it or laugh at it. They've seen firsthand what happens,
right?
And so it's in their culture,
right? Yes, and for a high tech company like this to go out of their way to plan to work around this area,
I think it's I think even people there that might not believe in it, they have enough of it in their culture where if one person says it,
right.
They might not say it first. They know that's the old elf hill, but they're not going to say it. They would build there, but when the farmer goes, well, I think you might need to, listen, your son. You need to be sure that whatever. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, all frisson.
Well, the owner claims that, his dog went missing in some fog that came up. His cows were really perturbed. He had these horrible feelings where he couldn't breathe, and he had cold on his face, and he felt a hand on his, just a lot of different things that made him feel like this place was haunted. Now, it's my opinion, and he didn't say this, but I'm of the opinion that he had cattle. He probably let them graze. They probably wandered up on the hill and did their business, and maybe he didn't respect it like he should, and perhaps all that stuff that happened to him was
saying they
just
crapped on the elves.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know that for sure. That's just my opinion. But the company, to their credit, did take it seriously, and I feel like doing The Exorcist maybe was just a way to, say, fresh start. We're going to respect your area. We're getting rid of any negative here and start over.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was pretty awesome. I like Iceland. I love that they take that so seriously.
Oh, I love it too. I would move to Iceland in a heartbeat. Seriously, I would. It's probably it's number one. I would go.
Think so?
I would go there first.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go there. If you're listening and you're in Iceland and you can make this happen, man, I would go there in a heartbeat and just think I could spread my seed around your continent. And you could have like this, I mean, think about the genetics alone. I mean, you're going to get all this artisticness. You're going to get over 6 foot. You're going to get the rare green eyes. I mean, it's a lot of good there.
Right. Spread your seed. Good gracious. All right, so let's move on to this next story from Paris.
Oh, oui.
And apparently they have found the grisly remains of guillotine victims discovered in the walls of a Paris chapel.
Oh.
Isn't that awful?
Oh,
It says
is.
the remains of hundreds of people guillotined during the French Revolution may be buried in the walls of a Paris chapel.
I didn't know they saved those.
Not sure they meant to. So an archaeologist inserted a camera to find the remains, and he was called in after anomalies were noticed in the walls of the neoclassical monument. So in the report, the archaeologist described 4 ossuaries, or like chests, containing skeletal remains. They were filled with bones. They're wooden and kind of have leather on the outside of them, very old. And so they claim that this particular chapel was built on the site of Madeleine Cemetery, where the remains of many people guillotined during the Revolution were buried. And in 1815, the remains of King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette were removed and reinterred somewhere else. But they've built this chapel there, so now they thought, like it's long been thought, that the bones of 500 victims of the Revolution were removed from the cemetery and eventually transferred to the Paris catacombs. However, the discovery in the chapel raises questions about what actually happened to all those remains.
Oh my God.
Isn't that awful?
Oh my God. They were like, it was like, Jean-Francois.
Yes, oui, Brutus.
Mm-hmm.
Jean-Francois, do you really think that we should dig and dig and dig and just have to take this all the way across town when we could totally put it in the walls of this place right here?
Who's ever going to look in the walls?
Jean-Francois, they'll never find it. And we can, do what Frenchmen do, and we could kiss one another.
Is that what Frenchmen do? What I thought was interesting is they say this man was called in after anomalies were noticed in the walls. I wonder what those anomalies were. Like, what did they notice that caused them to call someone in to see what was in the wall?
Well, maybe somebody was checking for a stud, and it was just like they were like, Whoa. Sorry. I hope you followed that.
I mean, it's weird. Perhaps there was like weird indentions or something, or I just think the place was haunted, and they were like, "Please come and look and see what's in our walls."
Is that
we
mold?
We hear talking in the walls. Could you come check, please?
I'm sure it's horrible too. It's like
I'm sure.
Just a bunch of freaking Les Mis songs coming out of the wall all the time.
Right.
I once was not a whore. I wanted so much more.
That's terrible.
But now I'm pregnant by the shore.
I don't think that song was included in Les Mis. I think they cut that one.
And they love me, mi amor.
That's not even French. Oh, it is.
It is, yeah. Part of it.
All right, so let's move on. Do you remember we did this story about the guy who owned the ghost town and was stuck there, quarantined there?
I do
how
remember that.
weird it was.
Yeah.
So there is this new story coming from that same town, Cerro Gordo, where there was a mysterious fire
Oh.
at the mining town. And the poor guy, he couldn't do anything but stand there and look at the burnt remains of some of the buildings in the ghost town, but they actually do not know how the fire started. And as funny as it is, the American Hotel, which is in that town, opened its doors on June 15th, 1871, and it burned down exactly 149 years later on June 15th, 2020. Wow. Isn't that strange? He said all he could do was call 911, and then him and another caretaker, tried to throw buckets of water on the flames. The entire town's not destroyed, but the American Hotel, the main building, was, and a couple of the other smaller buildings. So that's a shame. I mean, I know he was going to rebuild anyway and use it as a tourist attraction, but
Wow.
very unusual.
Yeah.
He said we may never know exactly what started it. And I don't think I mentioned this last time, and I meant to, but Ghost Adventures has been there.
Oh, really?
To that particular, yeah, they did it. It's actually pretty recent, November, I think, of last year.
Really?
They did an episode in that ghost town. So I don't remember that particular episode. I'll have to go back and refresh my memory.
And where did this happen?
Cerro Gordo in California. It's a mining town.
Okay.
With the bloody past.
Yeah.
And we talked about it because the guy was quarantined there, and it was really funny.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. But it is very strange that it could have a dark and mysterious origin.
So, I mean,
the fire.
the Cerro Gordo place is the place that burned down.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yeah, and it's insane the timing of it.
Yeah, no.
On the day.
Yeah, it's so
149 days.
So dark, ghosty.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think that sometimes, especially the bad, dark, malevolent ghosts, are oddly sentimental.
Yes.
Don't you think that maybe it's an emotional thing? You know how the very emotional humans are usually the ones that aren't so good?
Right.
It's like the worst freaking misunderstood ghosts there are.
Right.
Are just very sentimental. That's
the most sentimental.
I see. They're not demons. They're sentimental, sad ghosts.
That's right.
That could be
just
what,
misunderstood.
That's what we need to do on TV. Just be like, they're not demons, John. They're sentimental.
Start a support group for misunderstood malevolent ghosts.
We need to come up with a word like sentimental or something. Something we'll have to think of. If you guys think of a word
for a sentimental demon.
dark entity.
Dark entity. There you go.
Yeah, give us a good word, and we'll use it on television.
All right, so let's move on to the story from Thailand.
Cool.
And this is about a paranormal show that they have in Thailand called The Real Ghosts.
Oh,
and
it's original.
They have ignited a firestorm.
Oh.
And the show has been canceled
Oh,
because of this. So what happened was, this stemmed from an episode that aired back in February. And at the time, it sort of went kind of unnoticed. Nothing happened. But recently, it's been circulating on social media and has caused a real scandal. So on this episode, the three hosts visited a temple called Wat Sala Loy. And the bones of a beloved 19th century heroine named Lady Mo are kept there. Now, Lady Mo is a historical figure there. She was the deputy governor's wife when Laotian forces rebelled against Siamese control. And so now they sort of recognize her bravery is celebrated for supposedly rescuing people from a forced march. And she has a statue that watches over the city. And she's very respected and revered. Right. And so during this episode, when they're in this temple, they had a medium there. And the medium claimed that she was in contact with Lady Mo's husband. And supposedly they had an adopted daughter named Bunlua. And she claims that Lady Mo's husband told her that Bunlua was actually his mistress.
Oh, my God.
And she claimed that Bunlua also verified that fact, that she was in contact with both of their spirits. And she said that in front of the camera on television. Now, the historical accuracy of Lady Mo's tale is open to debate, but she is fervently respected. And people, visit her memorial every year. And they are just outraged that they would say this on television. And because of the outrage, the television program has been canceled. And they're even thinking about taking legal action against the hosts of the show and asking them that they need to come and ask her forgiveness at her memorial and just crazy stuff.
That's a bit much.
Isn't it, though? Isn't that crazy?
So the medium's there.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that that's not actually true?
Well, I mean, I know. Exactly. But the problem is they're...
And how does that hurt Lady Mo? You know, that's not the most unheard of.
Well, they're claiming that it's damaging her reputation and disrespecting her.
I don't think it
and
is.
Boone Lua's virtue.
Would it not be disrespecting the husband himself, you know, for coming out and saying that? And
I mean, perhaps.
and Boonville herself?
I don't know.
But maybe...
I mean,
maybe
I don't live in Thailand, so...
Maybe the husband in Boonville want it out, you know, after all this time.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe they can't go on
Mm-hmm.
until they get it out.
Perhaps. And they said, I mean, they say that they cannot claim something just because they contacted ghosts because it's not science. And everything they say contradicts
I would have made
the
it
history.
funny. If it was happening to me, I'd be like, you know, the medium was doing that in front of me. I'd be like, I bet Lady Mo's over there on the other side going, you better tell him. You better tell him. Tell him, Roscoe. You better tell him. You know? And,
Admit what you've done.
That's my Taiwanese accent.
Even the article admits that the historical accuracy is not necessarily
Right.
verified. So, but that's just what they've learned their whole lives. That's the story. You know, that's the legend. So.
Well, I mean, they're not saying that that's not.
I know, but apparently you can't have both. I guess it ruins their virtue and
All right.
disrespect. I just hate that these people lost their livelihood because of this one comment. You know.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful.
No, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't have to, but.
Yeah, I get you.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, number one, it was a freaking medium they were using, not the host.
Right. Well, she's one of the hosts, I think, of the show.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure how the show's set up. I believe that one of the hosts is a medium. So, but interesting story anyway. All right. So let's move on to this next story. Now, this is a story about a serial killer, and we don't normally touch on serial killers. That's not really what we do, but we do have a lot of listeners that are very interested in different serial killer stories, and this had a couple of interesting things to it that I wanted to mention anyway. So this is about the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly recently the Golden State Killer was in court and he pled guilty and admitted to dozens of murders and rapes as part of a plea bargain to not get the death sentence, just to have a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So this is about Joseph James D'Angelo, and he is an American serial killer that was a former police officer, a Navy veteran. And when he worked as a police officer from 73 to 76, he was actually part of the team that was actively looking for the Golden State Killer. Exactly. Basically what he did was he was a serial burglar and rapist. He went on to kill more than a dozen people and evaded capture for decades. But he did plead guilty to all of these things that they listed out for him in detail of what he had done. And back in the 70s, the investigators eventually connected a series of assaults in Central and Northern California to some slayings that were in Southern California. And so they settled on the umbrella term, the Golden State Killer. And the way they found, like, he wasn't even on the radar. They had no idea that this guy was guilty. Clearly, former police officer, you know, upstanding guy. But what they did was they used DNA from the crime scenes, and this is one of the things I thought was interesting about this, to find a distant relative through a popular genealogy website database. And they built a family tree that eventually led to him. So then after they did that, they tailed D'Angelo and they secretly collected DNA from his car door and from a discarded tissue that he had, and they used that to match up the DNA from the crime scenes. So the reason I thought this was interesting is because when they first started all these DNA sites, you know, everybody learns their ancestry and their history, and you know, there's the conspiracy going around that this was some sort of database building site for just this purpose. And if you read the fine print, a lot of those sites say that they don't voluntarily hand over your information to the police. But if there's a court order, if there's warrants, things like that, then they have to. they don't have a choice in the matter. And that's what happened in this scenario. You know, they used a distant relative, they got the DNA, they matched it up, and they finally arrested him in 2018. Now, the next part of this story that I thought was really interesting is that, you know, he's not really admitted to anything willingly, but when he was arrested, he did mutter a confession of sorts and cryptically referred to an inner personality named Jerry that he said forced him to commit the wave of crimes that appeared to end abruptly in 1986. Even when he was alone in a police interrogation room, they caught him talking to himself, saying things like, "I did all that." And he did say that he didn't have the strength to push him out, that this Jerry person made him do it. He went with him, and he said it was like in his head, like he was a part of him, and it just told him to do those things. And eventually he was able to push Jerry out and have this happy life, which explains why all of it stopped at one point. But he said, you know, I did all those things, I destroyed all their lives, so now I guess I've got to pay the price. So I don't know, very interesting way to end that. Like, the whole story is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They did talk to a criminologist at Northeastern University who claims, his name's James Allen Fox, he claims that most serial killers don't have dual personalities, even though that's what you see in the movies, that they're portrayed that way, that most of the time serial killers that get away with attacks for years are very cunning and organized, and someone that suffers from some sort of serious mental illness isn't capable of that.
Nice.
And therefore, if they say that they have an alter ego, they're usually faking it.
Yeah, he's lying. I mean, he's not lying, but he's the doctor is very misguided.
Right.
The doctor is, you know, he doesn't exactly know what he's talking about. He's talking what it says in the textbook, I'm sure, but the thing is, you know, Jerry could very well be a genius, and
Absolutely.
just that other person could be a magnificent minded genius that, you know, is in there. And you know, the split personality thing, the other person entirely, I totally believe it. I believe it happens. I have different reasons that I believe it happens, but I totally believe that all of a sudden you can be looking around and not realize what just happened, not know that while everybody's upset, not know what you did wrong, that what life you destroyed or anything like that. I strongly feel like that's a real possibility, and I don't think it makes it okay for them at all.
Right.
You know, but I think it's sad. I think it's really sad, and it goes on with the fact we've talked about before, how many prisons are filled up with demonic attachments.
Exactly.
You know, what if Jerry is a demon? You know, what if that's the name that it gave the psyche, you know, and maybe you want to separate yourself from that when it does it. You know, you know, I've got memories that I've pushed away. Nothing from something bad, but from something hurtful.
Right.
You know, and then get told years later the truth. You're like, no, that didn't happen, because I had an entirely different memory I put in that space.
Right.
You know, and so if that could happen, if you had a demonic attachment, we're assuming demons are real. With that assumption as canon here on this argument,
right.
this talk, then demons can possess you, and you do something atrocious, right? I would totally, I know, because it's happened to me, you know, with putting thoughts in there, stuff to protect myself from a loved one that I'm missing or whatever. I could see it creating the fact I was watching television or, you know, or something else.
Right.
Where you believe it, right? So if somebody was to ask you, where were you on the night of, you know, August 6th at 10:30 p.m.?
Right.
I was home watching
And
Mad
that's what
About
you
You
believe.
or whatever. Yeah.
Right,
You know,
right.
they're like, Mad About You, that sitcom from the early 90s.
Why would you watch that? That must be a lie.
but yeah, I was just trying to make some light there. I'm sorry.
All right, so let's just do our last stories of
Okay.
the show. All right, so this first one is a story from Japan, and I love this. It's about a haunted house in Japan.
Man, I
and
love Japan.
how they've decided to move forward with all the new rules, social distancing. You can't have a haunted house where you go in and people are all on top of you.
Japan does it right, brother.
Yes. So what they've done is they have a new format of a drive-in haunted feature.
That's
Isn't that
so
awesome?
cool.
Yes. So what they do is they get in the car. There's a soundtrack that plays in your car with scary music and ambiance and whatever, and you drive through, and whatever the theme is, like you could have zombies on your car, people jumping up, and you're in your car, so you're protected. They can get right up close to the window.
Wow.
And it's supposedly even, some of the people that play in these haunted houses say it's even more scary than what an original haunted house would be.
That might be something that they keep. That's amazing.
And I thought it was really ingenious of this company. It's a company that's usually hired to set up haunted house experiences at places like amusement parks and venues and things like that.
We need to open one here.
And they didn't have any business because there was no haunted houses. So they decided to start setting up with this new format, with the narration and the soundtrack. I bet it's amazing. Even some of the actors were like, I can get closer than I could get before and not have to worry about it. You're not worried about you're going to hurt somebody, but supposedly it's really scary.
You're going to get run over is a problem.
Yeah. I hope it's more like a car wash thing where you get on the track and it pulls you through, because that's going to happen. Somebody's going to get scared and like zoom through there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's more like a like a car wash type of scenario.
Yeah, it makes no sense, does it? It'd have to be a long, long car wash. The track would have to be very long and straight.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that. I don't know.
It really depends what the situation is, the theme, we'll just see.
Haunted car wash.
Or maybe you drive through and they just hope nobody stands in front of the car.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of shit that can go wrong there.
All right. Well, let's talk about this next story. And this is about a really strange call that some officers received in the UK about reports of about 50 people with suitcases just walking randomly near a reservoir.
No, that's every day.
And nobody has any idea where they were going or what they were doing. And in fact, by the time the police got there, nobody was there to be found.
You don't know what they were doing?
No, and it was several.
Oh, why'd you tell us?
Several reports of people calling in saying there were about 50 people walking towards this reservoir in the basically in the middle of nowhere, carrying suitcases. And it is a well-known spot for things like fishing and bird watching and water sports. But why would you carry suitcases to that? And in fact, it wasn't even open at the time for any of those things. And when the police got there, nobody around. Very bizarre.
Did they check the water?
I think they did.
Okay.
Yes, I think they did. But I would think that unless there were rocks in the suitcases, there would still be suitcases sitting around or floating or whatever.
No, maybe the that's what I was gonna say. Maybe they were chained to them, and that was the
and that was the means of
sinking.
That's going to be a very grisly discovery one day, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. Or a really good commercial for some kind of luggage. No, that's crazy, man. Do you think
weird?
Maybe there was a jump point or something, and it was like Stargate?
I have no idea. Nobody has any idea because they didn't find. By the time that it was called in and the police got there, it wasn't a ridiculously long amount of time.
What do you call the people that get together and dance in the mall for
flash mob?
Okay, we need to make flash weird. You know what I mean?
Right.
We need to have a bunch of people that just are ready to do something strange as hell.
A creepy flash mob.
And so we just do it, but we never own up to it, and we're gone before anybody can say anything. Before anybody can call the cops or anything.
Right.
So we're in the middle of downtown somewhere.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we have everybody put on wizard's robes or something, like the cult robes.
Right.
And get in a circle and
chant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just everybody walk off and put your robes away.
Right. Completely serious. And it's dang.
Creepy cult flash mob.
That's just
awesome.
That's just one thing, but it would just be so much fun.
That would be crazy.
That would be so much fun. I would love to have everybody walk down the street and just look have them all on one side of a state street or something.
Right.
And we pick the person lady in red dress. So everybody gets it on their phone or something.
Right.
So then they start walking like they're normal separate families or separate people. Uh-huh. And they all look at this lady as they pass her, over her head or something, or behind her back, because and kind of take off a little bit.
So she thinks
yeah, so the lady
messes people's heads.
Oh my God, dude. They would forever or all of them be like, Margaret. What? no, Annie? Oh, my bad. Sorry. And everybody down through there, like, Margaret? And, you know, just even make it like 10 people, not everybody in the mob.
Right.
You know, but just where she's really flipped out, right? And no one ever tells her. Like, the problem with pranks is people always come back with the camera.
Right.
And they're like, hey, look over there. Yeah, you're on TV.
Yeah. Or if there's a flash mob, there's already a camera pre-set up to catch the flash mob.
But we're not doing it for YouTube.
Right.
We're doing it to screw
satisfaction.
with people. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it's funny because whenever I was younger, and we would do like church youth trips and stuff like that, we would do stupid things like if we were in a big city, we would all start pointing at the sky.
Yeah.
At nothing.
Yeah.
Just all of us. And then we'd like talk to each other and be like, what do you think that is? And we would do it for like 5 minutes and then we would just all walk away.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, and we never say anything, and it was just funny for us to see how many people would stop and look to see what we were looking at and like look at us really weird.
I always, as long as I've been driving, I've always blown the horn when I see somebody walking on the street, coming my way, and I'll wave the other way.
Oh, so they
because
they like do the weird wave.
Yeah, they
half-wave
always
thing?
stick their hand up real quick, but I'm waving over here, and they see me, and it's all you always see people like pull their hand down, like, oh damn, like I love that so much. You wouldn't get
me with that because I don't wave at people that honk at me.
Well, most
normally.
people are more stuck on themselves than you,
I guess.
So they're expecting it,
I suppose.
So that's funny.
That is funny. I know that you do the thing we used to do where when you're riding the car and people are asleep in the car, everybody screams and you slam the brake on. Like when somebody's asleep, everybody's like, okay, on the count of 3, everybody scream, and you slam the brake on, everybody goes, ah, while they're sleeping.
I don't do that with you anymore.
No. That is not a good thing to do to me.
No.
All right. Let's move on to this next story.
Okay.
And this is about a Tanzanian miner. Not a child, like a guy that mines gemstones. Yeah. He found record-size Tanzanite gems and became an overnight millionaire.
Holy cats.
Isn't that amazing? So he's a small-scale miner, just a gentleman that decided to do it on his own, and he sold 2 rough Tanzanite gemstones that are said to be the largest ever found in the country. It's a 52-year-old man, and the stones he found weighed 20.3 and 12.7 pounds.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? And the previous record for a gemstone in the country was roughly 7.3 pounds.
Holy
so these
cats.
were amazingly bigger than what they had before. And he was able to sell them for a total of $3.4 million. That's US dollars. In whatever currency he has. Now, Tanzanite is said to be a gemstone that's found only in the northern region of Tanzania. And recently, like in 2017, they had the military build a wall around the mining site because it's believed to be the world's only source of Tanzanite. And it's estimated that its supply will be depleted within 20 years. And if for really good Tanzanite, like the rare ones, it's defined by how clear and the color. You can get cheap Tanzanite stones, but they're not good quality. Like the market's flooded with just really cheap Tanzanite stones, but you can get those really rare quality stones. And clearly he found 2. They do allow trading centers to just have what they call artisanal miners like him sell their gems to the government, where you can just go to the mine if you live there and you can mine until you find whatever you want to find, and that can just be your livelihood. And it really paid off for him. He's 52, and he claimed that he was going to slaughter one of his cows and build a school to celebrate. That's how he's going to celebrate.
Well, there you go.
Yes, his being a millionaire now. I think it's amazing. He said he was going to throw a big party, and he wanted to build a shopping mall and a school, especially a school near his home, because there's a lot of poor people around there that can't afford to take their children to school. So he's going to take his millions and do great things with it.
That's awesome.
So that's amazing. I love that he found those just random. I mean, what a good day that was, right?
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
You don't get up in the morning thinking you're going to go find $3 million worth of Tanzanite stones.
What a good story.
All right, so this next story is from India. And this is the craziest video. You have to go watch this video. The earth rumbles mysteriously for an hour. And it's ridiculously creepy. in this village. So this is a village in eastern India where this man was supposedly digging for water trying to find a place to build a well. And he was just in his backyard, and he had dug to a depth of roughly 1,000 feet when all of a sudden muddy water shot up for more than 40 feet into the air with a loud hiss, and the earth started rumbling. Now, the rumbling was confined to a large area around where he was drilling, but it went on for an hour, and they have no idea why it did that. And the video is crazy. You can see the ground shaking, and there's hot water being spewed up. And a lot of the people in the area believed it was hostile spirits, and they fled the village.
Yeah, of course.
Because they were like, this is not right.
Yeah.
This is crazy. We're out of here.
Yeah, Raul can stay here by himself. I've seen the video.
Yes, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's cool to see, but it's crazy, and it just kept coming, man. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know what would cause it to rumble for that long.
No,
it was a long time. They have urged some of the more educated residents that stuck around, urged local government officials to send scientists to investigate.
Why do you think the more educated people
That's
stuck
just what
around?
the article says.
Oh.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my personal opinion.
Okay.
That's what the article said.
You're gonna think they were pretty dumb when they get
I know when they're starting to
burned,
get possessed and stuff,
Yeah.
right? All right, last story. This is just a really hilarious story, and this is about a man who's being tormented, I say, by mystery pizza deliveries to his house.
Oh man!
For the past 10 years.
Oh Jesus Christ!
10 years. So this is a Belgian man.
That's like multi-generational.
This is a Belgian man who says he's been receiving mysterious pizza that he never ordered for over a decade. And it says why it initially may seem like an annoying prank. He says that he's received so many pizzas over the years that he shakes every time he hears a scooter coming down the street. He's a 65-year-old man. He says delivery drivers bring pizza to his door at all hours of the day and night. And it's not even just pizzas. It's all kinds of takeout. And sometimes multiple times in the same day. And he says mostly it's pizza, but other fast food items have come. And one time he had 10 different delivery drivers come to his place on the same day, and one of the orders was for 14 pizzas.
Oh my God.
And he thinks that it's just that his address has been mixed up, but I mean, come on, 10 years, that is,
No.
somebody is pranking him, and they are dedicated to that prank. And I admire them a lot for that.
My God. 10 years, man.
Right.
10 years. He pissed somebody off. I mean,
I know. Well, it says that another odd thing is that one of his friends who lives about 20 miles away has also been suffering from a similar thing with mysterious deliveries. And it's led the authorities to believe that the culprit is obviously someone that both of the men know, but
see,
they don't know.
those
for
call
sure.
girls that kept coming. I told you. I had no idea.
You have no idea where they came from.
They kept showing up in those librarian outfits, and
I know.
I don't know.
I know.
It's weird. So is that all?
That is all the news.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. So we've had quite a bit of fun here today with you, and guess what? We'll be back next week.
We will.
So, and the week after, and the week after, and the week after, and don't forget. You're also going to get some coolness in the next couple of weeks when we give you an episode of John and Stacey versus the Unknown.
Yes.
So, got more information on Scarefest coming. All the social media tags, where to find us, how to get a hold of us. And for my lovely wife, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.